Before the age of 12, Frank, ever curious, read independently the complete works of Shakespeare and discovered the poetry of Ezra Pound. With these readings, the boy began to realize the potential of the English language. He fell in love with the sounds of words. In other literature, he discovered Guy de Maupassant and Marcel Proust, and had what he called love affairs with them. He admired the styles of both, and was intrigued by de Maupassant's plotting techniques and Proust's powerful characterizations. Every time Frank went fishing, he tossed a book in his Boy Scout pack, which he carried with him everywhere. He loved to read Rover Boy's adventures, as well as the stories of H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, and the science fiction of Edgar Rice Burroughs. His maternal grandfather, John McCarthy, after observing that the boy was always reading, said of him, "It's frightening. A kid that small shouldn't be so smart." The boy was not unlike Aaliyah in Dune, a person having adult comprehension in a child's body, with childlike emotions. Something Ezra Pound once said remained with my father all his life, and was quoted frequently by him: "Make it new." To Dad, Pound was more than a poet. He was a non-conforming, creative writer, and an ongoing inspiration. In his early teens, Frank was for a time infatuated with the writings of Ernest Hemingway. Eventually, however, he came away with the sense that Hemingway's work was phony and filled with unnecessary brutality. Of the writers my father read in his youth, he was perhaps most obviously influenced by Shakespeare. In Dune's palaces, with their great banquet halls and dark passageways, one gets a very similar feeling to the castles in which Shakespeare's characters brooded and schemed and murdered. Treason and treachery permeate the writings of Shakespeare. When in Dune, Frank Herbert wrote of tricks within tricks within tricks, and treachery within treachery within treachery, and plans within plans within plans within plans, his language was reminiscent of Richard II. Act 2, Scene 3, line 87. "Grace me no grace, nor uncle me no uncle." Director David Lynch later picked up the Shakespearean mood in his 1984 movie adaptation of Dune. During all of his youth, Frank Herbert was a voracious reader on every imaginable subject. At age 11, he used to go alone to visit Dr. Jimmy Egan in Tacoma, their family practitioner. Frank was intrigued by his anatomy books, which the doctor let him peruse. Subsequently, Frank was able to tell his schoolmates how babies were conceived and born. Whenever his schoolmates had a question about sex, someone invariably said, "Let's ask Herbert. He'll know." But one little girl told her mother what was occurring. Enraged, the woman stormed over to Frank's house and confronted his feisty little mother, Babe, who was barely 5 feet tall. From the kitchen, the boy eavesdropped. The woman was so upset she could hardly speak. After getting the gist of what the woman was saying, Babe asked, calmly, "Well, did he misinform her?" Sputtering, the woman said, "No, but, Then what are you complaining about?" Babe wanted to know. It went on like this, with Babe defending her son, to the point where the woman could hardly get a word in edgewise. Exasperated, she finally gave up the effort and left. Frank was in the kitchen making a sandwich and hardly looked up when his mother came in. Suddenly, she grabbed him by the ear and whirled him around. "Explain yourself," she said. At 14, Frank learned to type and saved enough money to buy his own typewriter, a big, heavy old Remington. On it he typed his stories and a long and humorous poem describing Christmas and one of his father's jobs. He began copying the styles of writers he liked, such as Guy de Maupassant and Herman Melville, searching for his own style, something comfortable. One day my father went for advice to a writer living in Tacoma who had sold a couple of novels and several short stories. The response? "Work like hell, kid."